Speaker, sir, I am indeed grateful to the large number of honorable members who have participated in this discussion and made valuable contributions. The debate has rightly been exhaustive, and many members were able to express themselves with anguish, with anger, with reason, and with so much of patriotism that this debate perhaps will go down as one of the debates of a highest order in the history of Parliament. I once again express my gratitude to them. The occasion itself is one of introspection, seriousness, gravity, and perhaps an occasion where each one of us has to set our sights on the vision of the future. This country has been a great country. It has risen to great heights. It has seen aberrations, but from every aberration it has come out stronger and not weaker. I do hope that this great tragedy, this act of betrayal and vandalism which occurred on the 6th of December will be obliterated as quickly as possible from the public mind. I wish to God that this happens. Even the slightest remnant of the memory of this would be harmful to the country. And I would appeal to all sections of the people, all sections of the House, to help in this process, the process of living down this shameful event of the 6th December, and prove to the world once again that this is just an aberration. Otherwise, the country is one full of harmony, full of brotherhood, and this has been so for thousands of years. It will be so for thousands of years to come. It's rather strange, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this discussion should come in the form of a no-confidence motion. The Bharatiya Janata Party has no confidence in the government of India. Why? Because the government of India reposed confidence in the state government of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Maybe this is good justice meted out to the government of India. I have to own that. I have to admit that. But how do we run this country? How do center-state relations run? On the basis of suspicion? On the basis of mistrust? How do we run the country? How do we run the governments of the states which are so inextricably linked with the center that they have to be running a three-legged race all the time? One cannot go in advance, one cannot run in advance, leaving the other behind. In the National Development Council, in the National Integration Council, in the Chief Minister's Conference, we have seen that every problem is so intractable if seen in isolation, but becomes easy when seen comprehensively with the states and the center, both governments sitting together and trying to sort this out. During the last 1.5 years, the National Development Council has been functioning this way. Several subcommittees of the Council, headed by chief ministers of whichever party, have been constituted, and they have been doing excellent work. There has been no dissension of any kind, and the National Development Council on the whole has acquitted itself admirably as a result of this function. This is how a federal state has to function. But is it possible, is it conceivable for the central government of any federation to even imagine that one of its units, a state government, would keep giving affidavit after affidavit after affidavit, giving solemn assurances, and finally violate those assurances in a manner that until the last moment it cannot be detected. That is why my first reaction was that for all appearances it was pre-planned. There is going to be an inquiry, so I would not like to anticipate the results or the findings of the inquiry. But it was so planned, it cannot be accidental. It just cannot be accidental. Sir, I have been arraigned, I have been criticized for believing. That's the only sin I seem to have committed. I agree. I plead guilty for believing a state government. I have no compunction on that. But the point is that I believed it not only as central government. I found that there was nothing else but to believe the assurance of the state government. Was there any other way? When the Supreme Court believes it, the Supreme Court, hearing after hearing, places more reliance on the state government, asks the state government to come back with more affidavits, asks me at some point of time to keep out because they would like to try the state government. They have full faith in the state government. I am not a party, the central government is not a party before the Supreme Court, nor in the High Court for that matter, but I was called for a particular purpose. We said we are prepared to help the Supreme Court in whatever manner the Supreme Court wants us to do. That is all the role which we play. And ultimately, on the 6th itself, the Supreme Court had been shocked. What they said is revealing. I do not remember any state government in a federal setup having behaved this way. So those who told me and tell me now, did we not tell you? Yes, they have been proved right. I was proved right in July. So it's not a question of who is proved right. The question is what has happened to the Constitution of India in this process. It lies shattered. What happens with 356? It lies shattered. I would like constitutional experts to go into it. When is it that the President of the Union finds that a situation has arisen whereby the governance of the state cannot be carried on according to the provisions of the Constitution? What is that precise point? We have dismissed state governments times without number. Most of the state governments dismissed or removed have been Congress governments belonging to the same party as the central government. It was easy. You tender your resignation, we send advisors from here, and the state government becomes president, gets president's rule. In those few cases where other governments were also dismissed. A similar procedure, not quite from the beginning with the resignation, but some other procedure was followed. But in no case was the practical implication of Article 356 tested. You send the advisors, they take over at leisure, anytime, maybe one day late, maybe one day early. Here you cannot do a thing without dismissing the state government. I send my troops, paramilitary forces. I send them because I want them to be available to the state government. At no point of time does the state government tell me that they will not use them, but they don't use them. I have yet to come across a scrap of paper from Kalyan Singh ji to say that he refuses to use the paramilitary forces sent by the center. The Home Minister will bear me out. But he has not used them. Ultimately, on the last day, when we say, please use them, please use them, please use them, the Home Secretary, who is sitting with the Chief Minister, he says, it's so unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, unthinkable and unfortunate. 2:20 p.m., DG ITBP informed MHA that 3 battalions which had moved from DRC had met resistance and obstructions. En route, there was a lot of roadblocks and people stopped vehicles. After talking to the people en route, the convoy reached with great difficulty at Saket Degree College, where the force was again stopped and the road was blocked. Minor pelting of stones also took place. The magistrate asked them in writing to return. DG ITDP further informed that the 3 battalions had returned accordingly. The commissioner had been contacted, who informed that CMUP had ordered that there will be no firing under any circumstances. Earlier, sir, Home Secretary spoke to Principal Secretary, Home Government of Uttar Pradesh at Chief Minister's residence, asking him to persuade the Chief Minister to accept the assistance of the Central Forces. Principal Secretary, Home Government of Uttar Pradesh said that he would requisition Central Forces after consulting the Chief Minister. At no point of time was it refused. This is what I am trying to impress. When does that moment arise when we come to the conclusion that the governance of the state cannot be carried on according to the provisions of the Constitution? So these are some of the difficulties. If only one word had been there in Article 356, which says a situation has arisen. If after that it could have been added, is likely to arise, then the governor gets, the president gets a greater leeway. But then one has to go into it in greater detail. This is the first time in the history of this Constitution, in the history of Article 356, when it has been put to a test. It was never put to before, and it has not been able to stand to the test. Never mind who used it, never mind who did not use it. Howsoever you look at it, you will find that there is a lacuna, and that would have to be supplied, that would have to be made good. Sir, on one side, these are the reasons why I have to trust the state government.
Did you receive any IB report or not?
क्या
IB report.
क्या
IB report.
IB report क्या क्या चाहते हैं आप?
What was the IB report?
यही तो मैं कह रहा हूँ, मैं जो पढ़ के सुना रहा हूँ
You
वो
have not
IB
disclosed the IB report. Disclose the IB report which you have received.
There is no variance between the IB report and what I have read, sir. And then 3 days before the date, the governor of Uttar Pradesh writes in categorical terms, the most categorical terms, that the central government should not, I repeat, should not think of imposing president's rule in the state. He also adds that if any such thing is contemplated, the safety of the Babri Mosque can become questionable. I got the letter. These are on one side. Please, these are on one side. On the other side is, of course, the advice tendered by more knowledgeable people.
He is quoting Article 356. Is it not the provision under 356 that if the government of India is convinced, without the report of the governor and without the report of the government of the state, that the constitution is not being implemented there, they can take action, and action has been taken even without the governor's report,
yes,
on the information that the government of India collects.
I agree, Chandrasekhar ji. I am only trying to list out the circumstances under which the government of India could not be convinced. That's all there is. On the other hand, as I said, advise that these people might let us down. Some statements here and there, not from the government, but some leaders saying that they would not do Karseva only by sweeping. Now, these were the other things. Now, I say, in all sincerity, that I had to weigh, the government had to weigh the evidence on both sides, and we came to the conclusion that it was not possible to impose President's rule in the face of all this at the time at which it would have been of some use. And I would also like to add, I don't know whether I should say this, but the situation in Ayodhya was such that one had to be very careful, extremely careful. The Babri Masjid, that structure, was a hostage, On one side was the possibility of its being saved by negotiation, by further commitment of the state government. On the other side, you had absolutely no lead time. It is not with kudals and these things. It could have been blown up in a matter of minutes, seconds, by one bomb the size of a tennis ball, detonated from 200 yards. If the state government connives at it, this is what I said. This is like the mother stabbing the child, the mother poisoning the child. You don't expect it, but when it happens, no one can save it. Sir, this is my case. That is what I say. In July, I succeeded. You all heard me, heard my statement here in this house. We discussed it. It worked. I was taking the same line, the line which I had, please, the same line, the line which I had elaborated in my statement. We had the cell. We got the discussions going. 2 meetings were held in very good atmosphere. The third meeting was to clinch the issue of reference. It was at that point that a spanner was thrown in the works and the whole thing came back to square one. Now this is the situation. History will judge. People will judge. I am not really being dogmatic about it. My own party people had different views. I told the party, it is possible for congressmen to have different views. Who is proved right, who is proved wrong is not the question. You take a decision, you stick to it, you defend it. If you win, you win. If you don't win, you don't win. That is all there is to it. So, yeah.
The Honorable Prime Minister's full case is that he totally trusted the BJP government, the UP government, and he had no reason to mistrust it. And because he trusted fully, therefore, this tragedy took place. May I remind the Honorable Prime Minister that we had put a question that if Kalyan Singh suddenly resigns, how will you manage the situation? He did say we have alternative programs and within minutes we can get into action and manage the situation. That means that it was, and prudently so, as any administrator should do, is to have alternative plans also, not mere trust. And we were given to understand that there are alternative plans, and if Kalyan Singh resigns, the alternative plans are there and within minutes management can done. The whole scenario as it developed was described here. May I know where has that alternative plan gone? What happened to the alternative plan that if Kalyan Singh at the last moment resigns, you will put into action?
Sir, when Mr. Kalyan Singh resigned, it was too late to do anything. The time is very clear. Nothing could be done then except to dismiss the government, which was done. What I am really trying to impress on the House is, let us not go into who is right, who is wrong. I have borne all the criticism from friends, from other parties. I am only trying to place some facts. In spite of the facts, if there had been betrayal, a betrayal is something which is never detected. A conspiracy is something which comes to light much later, when only hindsight functions. Indira ji would not have been assassinated, Rajiv ji would not have been assassinated if the knowledge about the conspiracy had been available earlier. Now this is one of those mishaps where it has happened. Nobody can say that he is impeccably right. No plan can be absolutely 100% foolproof. You get everything, but you don't get magistrates. Now is it possible? Where do you take magistrates from? I would like to ask, if the state government doesn't give you 20 magistrates who are needed, do you take magistrates from Delhi? Is it possible legally? Can any legal luminary tell me? Therefore, if you go into details, naturally there is a commission of inquiry which will go into. But I am only placing before you some rudimentary facts which need to be taken into account. So, sir, as I said,
to the Prime Minister, is it not a fact that the news that the demolition work on the mosque structure had begun, the news of the demolition work having begun reached the government of India by 12 o'clock, noon? And if so, why the cabinet meeting was not called till 6 o'clock in the evening to decide what to do?
Sir, the first impulse of anyone who gets a report like this is to see that we save the mosque first. We ask them to make use of the forces. We go on pleading with them. We go on asking them to do it. This is all. This is all that was done. This is all that was done. This is all that was done. Sir, now please.
Demolition of mosque. Yes.
Sir, the logic of what happened on the 6th of December.
How long, Mr. Speaker, sir, please.
Yeah.
How long did the government of India continue to have faith in the Uttar Pradesh government? Is it till 8 o'clock in the evening or till 9 o'clock in the evening? When by this time the demolition work had gone on. So therefore, what we have been most anxious to see, to find out from the Honorable Prime Minister, that realizing that the betrayal has started, that he has been betrayed, how long did he continue to have trust on them? This is what is worrying us.
Sir, by 9:10 the President had signed the papers. By 7:30 or so, Mr. Sharad Pawar took the papers to him, and those are the timings if I remember right. Now, sir, the logic, please. Please.
His question. You have not replied to his question.
Chavan sir. Chavan sir. Sir, the logic of 6th December, the inexorable logic of 6th December has started. Started in right earnest, started within whatever time is necessary to take action. Action after action after action has been taken. Yes, this is a change in direction because it was warranted by the worst tragedy we could imagine. And the direction, the new direction has been accepted, the challenge has been accepted, the battle has been joined. There is no need for us to go into history now. The need for us is to make new history. And that is that for the first time after many, many years, the secular forces of the country have come together. Secular parties with all their internal differences have come together. I feel that this is time ये बहुत जरूरी था. And we will forge ahead. We will see that the secular credentials of this country are re-established fully. And what our great leaders, through the Constitution and through their own example, told us to do, we will do it to the hilt. Sir, Mr. Indrajit has raised a very relevant point. In fact, I was going to read the same resolution which he read from the Constituent Assembly. I had occasion to raise this in one of our party meetings. In a secular democracy, what is the place of non-secular parties, or what should be the composition and the program of parties participating in that democracy is a question which needs a national debate. I want this debate, I want thinkers, I want leaders to come together, because the time has come when we can easily see that there is an irreconcilability in these forces. We tried to carry on for many, many years. Now we find that there is a party which takes a religious issue as its main plan. Now, I have nothing against a religious issue. I have nothing against religion. But a religious issue being brought into politics election after election after election cannot be accepted. This will have to be looked into. And this will have to be effectively checked. If there is a party which takes to arms, for instance, if the candidate of one party has an AK-47 and moves with it, and the other candidate has nothing, it is an unequal fight. If a party takes Ram as the spokesman of the party and affects the minds and hearts of people day in and day out, whereas the other party does not even utter this, because it is a secular party, does not want to make use of that as an issue. Now it is again an unequal fight. And the Constitution does not, in my view, allow unequal fights. The field has to be even for both teams. Those who are participating in the elections would have to participate on the basis of certain guidelines, certain principles which are common to all and which are defined very clearly in the Constitution. This will have to be looked into, sir. This is fair to both of us. This is fair to both of us. Let Ram remain where he remains. Let us fight on the basis of other issues which are much more important from the point of view of the people, and that is the only way of making the Constitution work in its right spirit. I appeal to the other parties who are thinking perhaps that this is going to be a permanent asset to them. It will not be a permanent asset to them. The people of India can see through this game very easily and very quickly. Maybe one election, but after one election, the other election, the next election, they will see through it. And perhaps you will be wasting 5 years for doing nothing except raising slogans, unnecessary slogans. So I would like this to be gone into. I thank Mr. Indrajit for having brought out that resolution. We will have to act on it. We will have to think about it. I'll come, if possible, to the House or to the leaders of the opposition first, all leaders, and perhaps for a general debate, for a wider debate in the country of how this aberration, which has come to become rather menacing during the decades, has to be set right. It started in small beginnings, but then it has permeated more or less every party. Today, when I say that something which has happened will have to be undone, there are eyebrows going up in all parties. Now, I don't want this at all to happen in any party. If we are secular, the vandal cannot be allowed to take advantage of the act of vandalism committed by him. It's quite clear to me. It has to be seen. How we see it, it is for all of us to consider. Everything is there for discussion. We will discuss all these things, find ways. As we were about to find a way, we will find a way once again. I assure all of you, sir, I would like to once again appeal that today, the day of balancing pluses and minuses is over. We will have to go ahead with a program. So far as rehabilitation and reconstruction measures are concerned, I thought I should apprise the House of what has been decided. The Government of India have advised the state governments to take strong action against officers who have been derelict in their duties in maintenance of law and order during the recent communal riots. At present, the scale of ex gratia assistance to victims of communal riots differs from state to state. The Government of India will see to it that assistance to riot victims is given on a uniform scale by all the state governments so that next of kin of persons killed in riots could be paid rupees 1 lakh and those who are permanently incapacitated paid rupees 50,000 each. Sir, for this particular incident, I would like to add that as a one-time exception, we would like to raise this amount to 2 lakhs.
The government is paying 50,000.
We will talk to the UP government. Between them and us, we will see that this is paid. A fund will be set up, please. Yeah?
Please don't disturb.
जो पुलिस मारे गए उनको भी देने वाले हैं क्या?
A fund, sir, a fund will be set up for repairs and reconstruction of all places of worship which were damaged in the disturbances. In addition to the ex gratia relief in the case of death, grievous hurt or damage to the property, the Government of India will recommend to the state governments that the victims of recent communal riots may also be given the following assistance: employment to widows or wards of the families affected by the communal riots wherein earning member of the family has been killed or permanently incapacitated; allotment of tenements and house sites to families rendered houseless; allotment of shops, space for kiosks to families to restart their business; and bank loans for capital investment as also working capital for recommencement of industries and businesses affected in the riots. Similar measures will also be taken in the union territories. These are the steps that have been decided upon, sir, as we will...
The payment
Acharya,
of the
please.
wages of workers
We will... Sir, I will...
during the period of curfew, include this also.
In addition, sir, some of these suggestions have come from honorable members. If more suggestions come and we find them feasible, we will also go into them, sir. I have done. Thank you.
Please,
Sir, the Prime Minister
No, please.
told day before yesterday.
this is not going on record. Nothing will go on record. No, please, now you sit down, please. Please sit down
Sir,
now.
the Prime Minister told day before yesterday, assured the House to give a white paper on Ajodhya issue. That has not been submitted. Number two, about the reconstruction of that structure, you have not said anything today. What is your response to that? About the reconstruction?
The Supreme Court has asked the Government of India to submit its views on this particular subject within a time frame which they have fixed. We would like to examine all aspects of this and go to the Supreme Court and make our submissions. I would like to tell honorable members that this is being looked into. White paper will come in a few.
They lost their equipment. Would you compensate them?
Sir, there is a specific term of reference in the terms of reference of the Commission of Inquiry in regard to what happened to the media persons, and we have meanwhile decided to give those whose equipment etc. was damaged certain concessions which were asked by them. So the Commission of Inquiry will go in great detail into what happened to the media persons.
The lapses of the central government. That should be there from top to bottom.
Clarify this, please.